Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Welcome to Sisters.
Sisters.
There were never such devoted
sisters. Woohoo. We're back.
We're back.
From out of
Hello.
space.
Oh my goodness. All right, so tell me everything neurodiverse in your world right now. Anything popping up for you?
Everything.
My problem isn't having attention to things. I attend to
Everything. You know, I am a little more tired right now.
Oh.
Because we're doing this a little bit later than we normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And I am noticing that, like, I struggle to maintain focus when I'm a little tired.
A little loopy.
Yeah, because it's like, but you know, I'm not, I don't know. It's just the amount of energy that it takes for me to be normal. It's really fucking exhausting. But I'm here.
But you're here.
I mean, this is a good thing for people to, you know, get a sense of me in every facet of my life.
Well, you know, in our episodes, we'd like to talk about a little story, and then we usually kind of dig into Rosie's brain a bit, try to figure out what that story was all about, and then talk about some coping strategies. And we weren't planning on talking about being tired, but we could definitely go that route. I had something different planned for today. Do you want to know what it is?
Yes, let's go there.
Okay. So I want to talk about balance. Right? Because we've been like doing all these different senses, and apparently like balance is sometimes considered one of your senses. And
really?
Yeah. And I thought that was strange, you know, and I thought, well, I don't know if I 100% understand or agree with it, but I did think about you when I thought of balance. and I just really remember you falling a lot or being off balance.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe that has nothing to do with her neurodiverse brain, but maybe it does. I don't know. Like, do you have memories of falling or is it just me that I'm remembering?
No.
I mean, I fell a bunch of times after I had Josh because I had a C-section and I had no core strength anymore. And so the normal things when you would catch yourself, I couldn't catch myself anymore. I think I fell like 27 times.
You counted each one of them?
I mean, it was to the point that I'm like, God, I think I've fallen like 10 times in the last however long. It was a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I started to sort of track it because I thought maybe, you know.
Oh, you actually tracked it 27 times?
Yeah. No, I fell 27 times.
See, I would have forgotten.
But they were big falls. I mean, they were really big. So
I would have forgotten to track it.
Well, true. But I feel like for you, you know, maybe that's happened so much it would be hard to track over the years. I don't know. Or not. I don't know. I just remember this being a thing for you.
Part of it was the growing faster than my body could handle. Mm-hmm. But there is an image that comes into my mind when we talk about this. Uh-huh. And how do I describe this? Okay. I'm sure you've heard this as we've been like going through our podcast, like where there's some sort of gesture I'll make and then Michelle translates it for me because I don't know how to say what it is I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's hard to translate from my brain. So if you imagine Wile E. Coyote, and you know, like how,
like the animated character,
the animated character, or like maybe it's the Roadrunner, and like how the Roadrunner will like kind of be in one spot and then will run so fast that like there's like almost like a puff of smoke, or there's like a shadow of them from that before. Yeah. It's almost like they're in two places at the same time.
Oh my God.
That's how I feel like my brain is. My brain is the Roadrunner that's already off, but my body is still in.
Are you saying you've gone quantum?
Yes.
Like you're in two places at once?
That's the dimensional thing. I'm in a different dimension.
Oh. So you think your brain is going so fast?
My brain has already gotten me 4 steps, and I haven't even taken the first one. So then when I'm on the fifth one, I've now tripped myself.
Oh.
Yeah.
And like when you were little, do you remember that happening?
Yeah. A lot.
A lot. And like, but where would you be? Just anywhere? It could happen anywhere?
Oh, yeah. At any time. Like,
Okay.
I stand, like, I'm sitting down and I want to stand up, and like, I've already stood up in my
So
mind.
like playing sports would be just horrific.
Oh, God. Yeah.
How did you do marching band then?
I think the music kept me in time. So I couldn't get too far ahead of myself.
Kept you present.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The drums always kept me.
Da-dun, da-dun. Okay.
Kept me in the moment.
Okay. So, but as a kid, you would just, that wasn't true.
No. Yeah, no. It was. So you know those like segways, like the thing that like works based on little fine motor. From my understanding, a segway works like where you're standing on it and it senses the little tiny bit of motion in your body when you think the word go. Like when you think move forward, your body just kind of moves a little bit, from what I understand. And that's what ultimately makes the Segway go forward.
Okay.
I could be totally wrong. This is not a Segway podcast.
I like that we're always defining what our podcasts aren't. We're like, we're not a science podcast. We're not a psychologist. We don't know any. We're not a history.
We're definitely not a Segway. We're not experts in that thing. But so it feels like my body is the Segway and my brain is like, there's instead of like a little micro movement, it's like just jolting forward.
Ah, that's interesting. So your brain is pushing you forward
faster than my body can handle it.
Interesting.
Like if I wanted to try to like take a Segway and make it go faster than like 2 miles an hour or whatever it is.
Right.
You know, if I tried to rev the engine of it, you can't do it.
Okay. So you're trying to slow your brain down. No, you're not trying to slow your brain down.
No. My brain is just firing faster than my body can handle.
Wow. So I'm remembering you hated volleyball. Like you wanted to play it because Mike and I played it.
Yeah.
But then it was not easy. Is
No.
that like true just like in group sports or group things? I mean, obviously you did a lot with band and did a lot with things with music. That was group oriented. But like physical motion, was it like, did you fall a lot? Like when you would play or would you?
I think with the sports,
Like with the sports. With the drama. You don't put the in front of anything else, Rosie, just at the sports. The sports. Oh,
it's true.
You also say things like, yay, sports.
Go team.
Go sports.
Go put that ball
In that place.
in that place. Do the thing with the ball. Okay, with sports.
Yes.
I think I actually, I probably have really good reflexes because I strangely can like, okay, so like, you know, if you're throwing a piece of paper away or throwing something in a trash can, I can always hit the trash can.
Oh.
Strangely enough.
I would not have known that about you.
I didn't know something either, but I realized it I was like,
I'm really good.
I'm really good at this.
Okay.
Now, the problem comes when you put me in a space with another team that's doing their own weird thing, and then you put me in an environment with like people in the bleachers, and you know, sounds everywhere, and echoing, and and there's so much overwhelming me to the point of like, I don't know if I like, where's a ball? And it's like, oh, and then the ball's already gone past me because I'm
Or
noticing.
It's like hit you in the face.
Yeah. Because I've noticed like somebody walking up the bleachers with like, eat shoes, you know.
So I always assumed it was like your balance that wasn't very good or something. So that's nothing to do with it.
No, yeah.
It's just all the attention
it's why I hate going to sporting events. It's why I don't know it very well. It's not because like I enjoyed watching tennis when we were growing up. Like I loved, you guys always had like Steffi Graf and who was the person?
We
I don't
would
know.
always watch Wimbledon
or like
in the
Pete
summer.
Sampras. Like I remember him. Like I remember these people.
Yeah.
It was like Pete versus the guy with Andre Agassi. See, I remember people.
Yeah.
I remember some sports things, Josh. But and so I enjoyed watching that because like I was in the comfort of my own home. I don't think I would enjoy watching tennis at the arena. Is it an arena?
It's pretty
the court.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's okay. Anyone can make fun of me about the lack of knowledge I have with sports. I'm okay with it.
Well, no, but it's also quiet. I mean, it's intentionally quiet
that's
the
true.
entire time.
That's
there's
true.
There's clapping, but it's like very
like you can get ejected for being too loud.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's meant to be a quiet kind of. There's a little bit of like, ooh, or, but it's not screaming the whole time.
Yeah.
And people, if they are drunk, I guess they're more controlled.
Which is ironic because I love screaming at a theater show. It's interesting. I remember like it's reminding me
but
of.
It isn't competitive, right?
Oh yeah,
Usually
I hate competition.
It's not like screaming at each other.
Well, and this is whenever I think of sports, I think about there's a really good playwright who was in my class in graduate school, and he wrote a really poignant play about. I think it was him and his dad at a sporting event, at like a baseball game, and he's having this whole emotional conversation happening through plays. So they're talking out, and it always stuck with me. It just was really brilliantly written, and it was like they were having this whole fight with each other, and each play helped that emotion come out, and it gave them a safe place to have this space for their emotions.
Interesting.
And that's what I feel when I go to sports.
Go to sports. I go to the
sports. I know you're so sporty and I'm just not.
It's okay.
But like I feel everybody's emotion because it's like their safe space to project all of the stuff they've built, all that societally.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, because I think that was my release. That was my relief.
Yeah.
I when things were difficult, I could just go and hit that ball, or I could go, if I couldn't say it, I could, it was an acceptable way to get out my emotions.
Yeah, and then there's somebody screaming and throwing a ball at me, and like it's terrifying. I'm like, why so much aggression? Like, why does this have to exist in the world?
Interesting. Yeah. So I just thought you had trouble literally doing the skills.
No, I think I'm actually really coordinated.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, okay, no, I'm not coordinated, but like
but you have to practice those things, right? I mean,
yeah.
So, yeah, you were very coordinated when you did
like
band.
When I hyper focus, I had calves like no one's business. It's the emotion. When you're in band, you don't have somebody playing their trumpet in your face in an angry manner.
That would be so funny though, wouldn't it? All this
And it's not a competition. I mean, whenever we play board games, I hate
competitive.
Like don't give me Monopoly. No. The competition part of it really makes me upset.
I wonder why that is.
The emotion, because you see the nastiest side of people when they're competitive.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And they want to hurt you.
Oh.
They want to like take you down, and it's like okay, I love you. Like you're like okay, guys, like what's happening? It's really unsettling because then you have this person who acts one way, and then as soon as a board game comes in, they just like are ready to rip your throat out, and it's like what the fuck?
What's happening?
What is going on?
Yeah.
And so it's confusing because like there's these like societally safe spaces. Safe, and I'm gonna put in giant motherfucking air quotes, because okay, so you can have like your emotions in a board game or at a football game, but like God forbid I have an emotion in a restaurant. Oh no, that's where you've drawn the line, Megan. Well, you're like all screaming your fucking heads off, like crazy people. And if you love sports, I love that for you.
Yeah. Well, I do love sports,
You
and I do
do.
that. I do that.
But I'm like, but
why can't you scream your head off in a restaurant?
if that's when you're having that moment, right? Like, why do I
Right.
have to bottle it up? Like, I get it. Like, you're with other people. I get there's like this social norm thing, but it's even the same thing when we're with family, right? There's no safe place to have an emotion unless you're by yourself.
So you do feel unbalanced. It's just emotionally unbalanced.
Yeah. Because I'm
That's
not allowed to
interesting.
just be where I am. I have to be other. And if I'm not happy that day, then I have to pretend like I'm happy. But if I'm too happy, I have to pretend like I'm not that happy. It's very
And I
exhausting.
think also, as you're saying that, it's also your energy level. I mean, the happy and unhappy, I think I agree with that. And I think that's true for most people, right? That they have to pretend or feel they have to pretend where they're at. But when you have the amount of energy you have to release, as I see it, that might be a different energy level than other people have ever experienced in their life,
Yeah.
right? Or you're really low on energy, which also might be more extreme than most people have experienced, then that's when it's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like some sweet spot that you have to be at all times.
Right.
And to juggle that sweet spot is
And when you say that sweet spot of like energy, like of
energetically, like there's a typical person who's like just charming enough, but not too overbearing, but also funny, but not so funny that it's
like that Barbie, who was it? America Ferrera did a,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that, right? Like, especially as a woman, you're supposed to be all these things, right?
Yeah.
And you just never were that way growing up.
No.
Like you were falling, you were skinning your knee, you were running into things, you were loud, you were like interesting and crazy and fun.
Yeah, I was not like
like half clothes on, half clothes off, and whatever was happening.
Still that way.
Still that
Checks.
That's right. So I think when you think about that and you think about all the balance you're trying to keep with all of those pieces, that sounds exhausting as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a physical element to it, but I think there's also an emotional element. I've seen a scale in my head. Actually, the scale that we grew up with where it was like you step on it and there's like a counterweight to kind of, and so you have to kind of move it.
Oh, yeah.
So like you're
It's
trying
kind
to,
of like in the doctor's office before they went digital.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like this weight that kind of has to level out perfectly. And so you have to find that equilibrium. And so that's what I have to constantly do emotionally. I'm constantly balancing this weight of the weight of the world, the weight of societal norm as to what I'm supposed to be. And it varies depending on who I'm with. So not everybody's social norm is the same, which is what makes me mad. Like if you want to have your norms, then just have it be universal. But like I'm supposed to conform to everyone else's norm, but then they don't have to conform to what my norm is.
Yeah. What would your norm be? That's an interesting question. What would you want it to be? Like, what would you want the norms? If you could change a few things,
I would love it. Like,
yeah.
let's say you're having family dinner and you walk in, everyone's like giving each other hugs, and someone's like, I'm just not in the hug mood today. Awesome. It's great to see you. And like, they could be like, you know what? I'm just having a shitty day. Like, that sucks, dude. Like, you want to talk about it? No, I'm cool. Or yeah, I want to talk about it. And then it could be just acceptable to like not feel well. And it could also be acceptable to be like, oh my God, I'm having the greatest day. I just need like so much energy, attention to me. Please give it to me. Where we can kind of be honest with where we're at so that we can then move forward and start compromising based off of where we currently are. Because it seems like I have to compromise myself all the time in order to be in a room with others. And they don't have to compromise to me. So it feels very unjust. It doesn't feel equal.
Interesting.
And I'm sure that they're probably having their own thing, right? Because like we all have social norms we have to file. But it would be nice to be
you
able
would like everyone to be like, all right, let's all do a temperature check. Let's all do an emotional check really quick. Where is everybody?
Yeah.
What does everyone need today? Or might you need?
Yeah.
And let's start there.
Like we want to be here together and this is like a time together. But yeah, let's check in and see like.
Well, and that makes sense to me. Like, especially since you're saying like you have so many different emotional states or energy states or what I think we keep going back to energy, but like some sort of like, because you keep saying it's like somehow energy related, but like you have different or you came in with, like you said, with some baggage, something that was hard, and to kind of have that be the social norm.
Yeah, like if I got a text message from somebody, it's like, oh gosh, guys, I got a text message from this person. It's really bumming me out. Or like, I got this great text message. Like, it's like we can talk about the good stuff, but we can't talk about it when it's hard.
Like being more overt about our days or our places, where we're at.
Because that way, like,
because you don't have to say everything that's going on, but I remember we were talking about this before, a couple weeks back. We had gone thrifting with our brother, and you were like, I'm having like a pretty severe ADHD day.
Yeah, I could feel it that day. I was like, oh, okay, I'm jittery.
Yeah, I'm like all over the place.
I can sense that like I am struggling and I was able to say it.
Yeah, and it was super helpful. Because it was like, oh, okay. And then there was no shaming around it. And you didn't come across that way to me that day, but except for when you wanted to buy all 1,000 of the Christmas villages or whatever. And I was like, sometimes when you're like this, sometimes you kind of buy a lot of things.
But see, that's the thing is like, if I'm able to tell you, then like you can aid me in ways that I wouldn't have even known.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you're totally right. I did not need all 12 of those things. I just needed 3. If someone is like not feeling well, like maybe their stomach's hurting, like, hey, yeah, my stomach's hurting today. Oh, like what would help you out right now? And if they don't know, it's okay. Well, let me know if you need anything, even if it's just like, just to know that you're seen, to feel seen. And I think that's what's hard for me is that like,
because what you go through is so invisible.
Yeah. And so I'm having to constantly balance. I'm having to conform who I am. And so then I don't get seen.
That sounds really, really hard, but it also sounds to me like something that you're used to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very much my existence for the first 30, 35 years.
And how might that have impacted you?
It made me feel like I was worthless. And that every fiber of my being was wrong. Like it made me hate myself. And I had no self-love or compassion. I thought that I was stupid. And I just I really hated myself for a long, long time.
That's really hard to hear. I'm sure harder to feel.
Yeah, it's really only been in the last couple of years that I've been able to even say that I love myself. And that's taken like this last 6 years, like I've had to really, really work at it, and I had to fake it for a long time. And I still have trouble. I'm like just kind of starting to get like, oh, I'm really cool and I'm awesome. And I think this is actually really helping me because I do feel seen. Like I truly feel seen for the first time. Definitely from like you and also from myself. I feel like I'm curious about myself. And then sometimes I get a little too excited and like I want to explore every possible facet of my curiosity and like in myself. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I get us completely sidetracked because I think it's never going to happen again because like I'm not used to it being in my life.
It's interesting to think about this concept of balance, and that for some people that seems always the goal, right? You got to keep balance. You got work-life balance. How much time you're spending on this or focusing on this, a balance. And so it's interesting to me when you're talking because it almost is like unbalancing you to really focus on you.
Yeah.
It's almost it because it isn't the norm for you. So it leaves you a little off balance maybe. Or maybe it grounds you. I don't know.
I think it's been grounding me, actually. Well, and what I was thinking is when you were saying the goal of our lives is to like achieve balance.
It seems like it. I mean,
Right,
I
that's
don't
what
know
we're
that
told.
I don't know that it is mine, but
And yeah, not that it's yours, but like that yeah, we hear it a lot. Like, you know, balance in work life, balance in this. And it's like, I don't know if I am capable of being in a balanced way that society is telling me to be. But it doesn't mean I'm not balanced.
Right. Yeah. Can you say more about that? I kind of am gleaning where you're going, but I'm not.
So when it comes to work, right? We talked before about having like a little starter course of work, and then an entree of work, and then a full meal of work, and then a 5-course meal, and then a 10-course meal, and like how much work can you do? And I feel like when I hear people talking about work-life balance, they would say like that entree, maybe the full meal is like what you should do in a day. And that amount of work is what is expected. And then you should now have balance and not move any further. And then take your break and then come back and do more. But for me, a lot of times with work, I end up doing a 10-course meal. But that doesn't mean I'm not balanced. Because I think in allowing my brain to do what it does.
So I'm going to take us back for a second. So for example,
Yeah.
you might delve into something like you were rebuilding a computer for your husband, right?
Yeah.
Or building a computer, I should say. And you purposefully stopped that from happening for a while because you're really good at this. And why might you have stopped it from, you didn't want to pursue that at that time?
Well, I knew that it was expensive, so I knew we didn't have the money to really make the computer
exactly what he wanted or needed.
Yeah. And I also knew that I had been out of the game long enough that the technology had shifted enough. I would need to do a lot of research to get back into it. And I wasn't in a mental space or an emotional space to be able to devote that much time. And I was like really working on myself, and like I didn't have the capacity to learn about another product. I needed to use my learning processing to work on myself. Like I only had so much energy for learning new things.
So when you think about balance, you really think about your energy and how much you're exerting.
Yeah. Because I can't.
Certain things are going to really zap your energy or like going to take a tremendous amount of.
Emotionally hard stuff definitely takes a lot of energy. And so I was dealing with like a lot of my like past trauma, and like even just having to talk about the fact that I don't like myself. I was learning about the fact that I didn't like myself. I was having to come to that realization. That's a huge toll to have to like recognize that.
Absolutely.
In that, I also knew I had to start learning new tools so that I could not do that. And that learning, like there's only so much learning I can do. It's why like these 7 classes a day really sets kids up for failure. Cause like there's only so much you can learn in a day. There's only so many lines I can memorize in a day.
You know, what's interesting to me though, is that I think you do have this ability to do more in a day than most people do.
Yeah.
When you're in that. And you were just talking about this 10-course meal. And I think we were talking about that sort of privately before. So I want to kind of bring that back because I think part of what you were saying when we were talking about, if I'm remembering correctly, is that there are certain things that are going to grab your attention and you're not going to be able to let those go. And you actually don't have complete control over that, which is hard sometimes. But that's like building that computer was like this 10-course meal, and you were already doing a really hard thing, like you were saying, learning all this stuff about yourself.
I was already at a buffet.
Yeah, you already had a buffet learning.
I was like, like I was just eating nonstop at a buffet. You don't have room for a 10-course meal at a buffet.
Absolutely. And so learning that about yourself, though, and also being able to just articulate that to me, you know, we were saying, wouldn't that have been great if we had had that kind of language when you were little, when you were staring off into what seemed like space underneath your desk.
Yeah. Or like when you were saying, when you were kind of shocked, like when we were talking about the stickers and you're like learning there's this whole world that I was, that like I might look like to somebody else that I'm just staring at a book, but that actually there's a whole starter meal that's happening in my head.
Yeah.
Right. Of energy. Like the sticker book was kind of like a little, I was saying like it's a little mouche-bouche. Is that the right phrase?
Yeah. Little taster.
A little taster, like a little starter dish. And it only requires maybe like an hour or so of energy. And it's not like a full course meal.
Right.
Of energy.
And so it's interesting when you're saying this, because obviously there's the emotional energy. There's also your attention to something and paying attention and staying attentive to something. And all of that you're saying, is it true that you're saying that like you are balanced in that in some way? Like
more so now than I ever was. Yeah.
And how might you be doing that? What are some of the strategies you might be?
I'm starting to listen to myself a little bit more. So what I've noticed is that if I love building computers. Like I can talk about it for hours and work on it for hours. And, you know, I could get
almost
totally.
No one will listen to you, but that's not true. You maybe
I haven't found anybody who will listen to me.
Yeah. Just start your own YouTube and then it'll be great.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I know that I can do that. And so if, let's say Brian's asking me and I'm creating excuses as to why I can't, or like I'm kind of pushing it off, or I'm not feeling this excitement. Like, cause if someone said, hey, build me a computer, I'm like, yeah, let's go. But if I'm not feeling that, then I have to honor the fact that like, there's a reason why I'm not feeling excited about that. And I need to honor that in me. I need to be more curious about myself and like, hey, why do you think that? Cause now we're talking about it and like, it makes perfect sense. I was like learning so much and I knew what I'd have to do in order to get there, but I couldn't articulate that back then.
Yeah. It's interesting when you say that to me, because I'm thinking one of the books I've been listening to, I've been, you know, really researching a lot about attention and about what all this means and trying to learn a little bit more for myself and also about you. And they're saying like finding your passion really is one of the strategies for people with attention deficit issues, and that it's really important. But at the same time, it sounds like you're saying you have to kind of balance that with the other things in your life. Like you do have this passion for computers, but at the same time, if you needed to take care of yourself emotionally and your mental health, that needed to take priority.
Yeah.
And now you're mature enough to be able to balance that, it sounds like.
Yeah. And I, at one point I finally was able to say to him, I can't start this because you will never see me until I'm finished. And when it actually happened, I remember like every once in a while, just kind of stopping and being like, checking in with him, like, so do you see what I'm saying about why I waited I waited? And he's like, oh yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Cause like
and it's probably why I called you about 4 days in going, where are you? What's going on?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like being able to help people understand, like, this is what will happen to me. Cause I think at that point I was so like in all my other medical stuff and like I was having problems that my ADD was kind of being masked by everything else. So he didn't actually truly know me as the true ADD person that I am.
Right.
And so that was part of the fear of like, you don't know me in this capacity because I haven't had enough energy to be this way for so long. And now that I'm starting to get energy back.
Watch out, world.
Right.
Here she comes.
But then it turns out he thought it was so sexy.
Oh.
And he's like, it's just so amazing to like see you, like you're like listening to everything, all these guys talking about the techie world. And then like you're putting this together. And every time he looks at his computer, he's like, man, you made this sexy thing for me. Like it's incredible. Like it's, you know, because it's rainbow and beautiful and liquid cooling and it's so cool.
And I love too that as we're talking about this, that you're bringing up really the thing that unfortunately when we call it attention deficit disorder doesn't allow for, which is what is the real benefits of this and of your brain and who you are. And I think because we do grow up, especially in schools, where it's so unacceptable to be anything other than this cog to some degree. And I'm a school teacher, so I'm saying this because I know, you know, it's really hard on teachers for kids who have attention deficit. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because we're being asked to get people to do the same thing the same way as they're going. And oftentimes it's hard for you to do that. So
yeah, you were telling me about all these like standardizations that I was helping you with some stuff, and like all of the different standardized goals and
the standards. Yeah.
And it's like, that's the thing is like when you have these standards, it leaves an entire chunk of people out.
Well, the standards themselves aren't supposed to leave anybody out, but the way you implement them do. Right. So it's like, okay, I want everyone to learn about atoms, right? And electrons or something, right? Like that shouldn't leave anybody out. But if I'm asking you to do it in listening to my lecture, or I'm asking you to do it and I'm telling you have to work in groups, the way I implement it as a teacher can leave people out.
Yeah, but
the content itself shouldn't be.
I would push it back on that just a tiny bit, because what if I'm in a space where I can't fundamentally understand atoms? I have things that I've had in my life where like I just somehow cannot wrap my head around it.
Well, okay, so we could get into the weeds on this one, but I would say there's definitely certain people who maybe they don't have the cognitive processing power to do it. I would argue, though, having had, over 30,000 students, in general, I think I can count on 2 hands, 2 feet, people who really couldn't process mathematically for whatever reason, right? And that's what I teach, right, is math. So most of the time, my experience with it has been you just haven't found the right way of understanding it yet. You just haven't been given the opportunity or the right person or the right way of putting it, that we all learn so differently that, and this does go to the attention piece as well, that, maybe there's something bigger in your life at this moment that isn't allowing you to attend to this.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so therefore, because I really do believe in general, we are intelligent beings and we can learn pretty much anything we want to learn. But sometimes we're just not in the right environment or not given the right set of circumstances to make that possible.
Yeah, that's like what Keith Buell said in voice class. He says that everybody has the ability to sing. And there's no such thing as tone deaf. Like you might actually have some physical defect, but the percentage of people who have that is very, very limited.
Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying I just don't think it exists. I think that's an out for ourselves oftentimes. Understandably so, too. I mean, because we have terrible experiences sometimes. I know I have in various classes before, really hard situations, whether it's through the teacher or the environment or whatever. But I do think in general, most of us are.
But like if you could go into school and like there was a temperature check and it was like, hey, where are you guys all at? So that you knew like, hey, this kid might be having something going on. Like, and then the teacher knows like, okay, well, maybe today is not the day to like push them. It allows.
Or people are sick. I mean, I do think since the pandemic, that's become much more open than it was when we were going through school.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, there is much more leniency and grace given to people being in different situations. Now, not 100% for sure, but that part I think has gotten a bit better. So I just kind of wanted to kind of open up to the community to say, what are the things, first of all, the concept of balance, right? Whether
different
physical
for
or emotional or whatever, what other people think about that, as well as what are strategies that, especially specifically people who have attention deficit disorder or attention hyperactivity disorder, what they're using or how they see balance. Because I love your version of it. Like I'm still balanced. It just doesn't look like you're balanced.
Yeah.
Like I'm balanced in me.
Yeah. It's like you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't, just because I look like I might be out of whack, you don't know because you're not inside my head.
Right. So staying curious.
Yeah. Just staying curious and like not judging. Like that's the thing is
just
like
observing.
Yeah. Because like we're just constantly judged, and we had to judge things for a very long time in order to like make sure that we didn't eat that mushroom that was going to kill us. We had to judge whether or not it was good or not. But like, I think when it comes to people, you just don't know. You just don't know until you ask questions.
Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thanks for talking to me too.
Love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that wraps up another episode of Sisters Sisters. Thanks for joining us on this roller coaster of laughs and insights. Tell your friends about us if you enjoyed yourself as much as we did. And don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you currently are on. Ooh, and guess what? Michelle's science experiment continues next week when we'll be wrapping up our deep dive into how I experience the senses. We'll be talking about the sense of taste, so tune in. Until then, stay curious. I feel like I gotta get Daisy snoring.
Oh, so good. So should we keep talking so that she doesn't...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like she... It's like she stirs because she knows we're not talking.
It's
Which
weird.
is like, but that's fine. Either way is good.